for me, it crushed the spontaneity. And I was trying to stick so rigidly to these little boxes. I became a bit obsessed, and it was absolutely dreadful. My writing just crumbled. It was trying to confine me.
Shall I just use an exercise book and just write pen to paper and then type it up later? And then basically I put it together myself. So it's sent to the printer, print ready, and they send me an unbound copy. So I put the cover together, the whole lot.
And the one thing it has done is it's made me appreciate people like the Bronte sisters and Thomas Hardy and Charles Dickens and all that crowd. Because I sit there and think, how did they do that without Microsoft Word? And so we've got a candle and a quill pen, so sod that. I'd have never been an author in those days. If I've not got Microsoft Word, I'm not doing it. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Books and Beverages evening. And I can guarantee that you will be in for a hugely entertaining 5 hours with us here tonight. No, I'm only kidding. You'll definitely catch last orders at Blind Jack's. First of all, can everyone hear okay? Everything working fine? Great! I'll quickly introduce myself. I'm Tom Sibson. I'm Knaresborough born, and I'm a crime author. And this evening I'm joined by two exceptional ladies, and when I read you their bios, I'm sure you'll be impressed. To my left here I have Susanna Lewis, and to my right I have Toni Bunnell.
Toni Bunnell.
Bunnell.
Sorry, got to get that right. Very awkward me.
I was going to ask actually, are you anyway related to Dewey Bunnell, the guy who sang A Horse With No Name?
Never heard of him.
Okay.
Sorry.
We should move on. He was born in Harrogate.
Right. I'm from Manchester, so I could explain it.
Close that one. Okay. Well, now we know. And having got that settled, let me tell you a little bit about them. Susanna is an award-winning writer and poet, and enjoys writing across all genres, including memoir, poetry, short stories, theatre plays, magazine, newspaper articles, and novels, with a particular interest in cosy crime. She's a trained therapeutic writing teacher who encourages people of all ages and backgrounds to use the power of creative writing to improve health and well-being. Susanna has taught writing for well-being in schools and community groups, and is passionate about supporting people to explore their own writing journey. She is the author of 2 poetry books, 2 non-fiction books, and a memoir about the passing of her mother. The memoir Finding Joy in the Everyday, which is over there for after. It invites readers into the raw, often isolating world of grief, revealing a way forward through gratitude and mindful observation of everyday life, and explores how in our darkest moments we can find glimmers of light and joy. Susanna is currently working on a spy novel set in World War II, and a poetry book and non-fiction. She is also a Qigong and meditation teacher, uses creative writing and journaling during her classes and workshops. Can we hear it up for Susanna, please? And to my right we have Toni Bunnell. She's a singer-songwriter who's played on the folk circuit in the UK and Germany for many years. She has recorded 9 albums of her songs, which are companies using the guitar, bouzouki, dulcimer and hurdy-gurdy, plus an album of hurdy-gurdy tunes. Toni has produced a book of 100 of her songs called Across the Years, and her album Tracking the Changes received a 4-star review in R&R Music. Songs that respect the spirit of people throughout the world, and songs that remind us to move to the future but remember the past. Tracking the Challenges is a living heritage. That's a review in R&R from 2024. She's also the author of 15 books, including 2 books of poems, 1 non-fiction on music therapy, and 2 about hedgehogs, based on her work running a hedgehog rescue since 1990, and her background as a wildlife biologist. 10 works of fiction venture into parallel worlds and the supernatural. Can I have a hand for Toni, please? And I believe that it's Toni who's about to play us in for the evening.
Yep.
Toni, if you'd
Okay.
like to go and do your thing, because I can't wait.
Okay. I'll say thanks very much to Tom for going to all that trouble. Yeah, reading it, yeah. No, thanks a lot, really, for hosting the event. And also to Edwin for setting it up in the first place, and for Greg for turning up really, where's Greg gone? Anyway, turning up really early. There he is, coming down now. So, like Tom said, I'm a singer-songwriter, so I've been writing songs since I was 10, like a lot of people have, actually, if you check with them. Okay, so writing songs, yeah, but not stories. And it's only when a close friend died in 2012 and I started writing poems, and it was very, very cathartic, helped me massively with the grieving process. You're writing poem after poem after poem, and I put them all together in a book, A Life Well Lived. So I'm just going to read you a really short one of those, not boring you to death. Where did you go? Where did you go when you left this land of heavy seas and skies? Did you take to the moors with the whispering wind, amongst the heather, and lie stretched out on the ground with the moss at your back, a comforting bed, and then to dream away for hours on end, and write down your thoughts as they came? For you were the master, for you were the master of story and prose, a single voice in the crowd, who stood alone with a smile on your face, viewing the masses around. May your smile last forever, as it will in my heart, and capture the words of the song. And I'll see you soon, my friend. I'll be with you before too long. Okay. So that's that one there, so don't sit on it later. So I carried on then writing started writing fiction. Once you start writing, you find you can't stop. How many people here actually write? I bet there's quite a lot of you. Yeah? 1, 2. I bet other people write, but they're just not going to admit to it. Yeah? It's just got to look away from this moment. Okay, so and where we get our inspiration from, this first song, I'm just going to do 3 songs. The first song is, the idea came to me when walking around in Haworth, around the Bronte Museum. And there was a sign somewhere I picked up on the fact that there were graves for the nameless children, so they obviously buried without a name. And this inspired me to write the book, The Nameless Children. So in the beginning there was soil. In 2015, 4 teenagers emerged from the grave where they were buried in the 1800s, without ceremony and without a name. They were the nameless children. Across the graveyard fast came he, heart beating like a drum, running, creeping all the ground, looking back where he had come. And now the night had turned to dusk, and with it all hope gone, his dreams had crashed around him, dashed his spirits to the ground. Across the graveyard fast came he, heart beating like a drum, running, creeping all the ground, looking back where he had come. Despite our wish embedded deep within to find his family home, where he had died so long ago, where he has lost his soul. Across the graveyard fast came he, heart beating like a drum, running, creeping all the ground, looking back where he had come. Cholera had visited the homes of rich and poor. No distinction did it make, for them their life was all. Across the graveyard fast came he, heart beating like a drum, running, creeping all the ground, looking back where he had come. But some could not rest easy in this unhallowed ground, nothing to mark their passing, no name upon the stone.
Across the graveyard fast came he, heart beating like a drum, running, creeping all the ground, looking back where he had come. And so the nameless children had returned to claim their rights, to live the life they never had when taken by the night. Across the graveyard fast came he, heart beating like a drum, running, creeping all the ground, looking back where he had come. Across the graveyard fast came he, heart beating like a drum, running, creeping all the ground, looking back where he had come. So that's the Nameless Children. And that was followed by the sequel, The Dead Space. So basically they go back into the ground and then they come back again. And so this is a song I wrote in connection with that. It's called The Race Through Darkness. It's always one string. You'll appreciate that too, won't you? What do you want it? Yeah? You can go with that. Okay. They rose so quietly from the grave, no words spoken, no one came to see the ghost of twilight pouring forth between the stones. The race of darkness sliding through every crack in every stone, gathering speed as they moved on to the town that lay waiting. They rose so silent from the grave, no words spoken, no one came to see the ghost of twilight pouring forth between the stones. Unaware of what had passed, of spells of midnight being cast by magic makers bent on causing the raising of the dead. And so they trod mostly unseen, save by those who saw a dream, trod the path to whence they came and found their ancient home. They rose so silent from the grave, no words spoken, no one came to see the ghost of twilight pouring forth between the stones. Things once done cannot be changed, too late to return them to the grave. The nameless children had risen, and they had their day. So I'm going to play the Gurdie now. And the doors are locked, you've got absolutely no chance to. So just bring this on here. And move that out of the way because you don't need that. So if it sounds slightly out of tune, it's meant to. Okay. It's the authentic French sound, slightly discordant. So I play a lot in folk clubs. I still play quite a lot. I do gigs around, mostly around Yorkshire and odd time Manchester, not up and down the country. And so I often would, when I was playing the Gurdie, I'd say sometimes. Tell people about the Savoyards in France. The Savoyards are a gypsy group, and they send the children out onto the streets with a hurdy-gurdy. It was quite a big hurdy-gurdy, and some of them play at this end, and then they train a little marmot to dance. And the marmot is like a rodent-type creature. You probably all know what a marmot is. I once stupidly said it was a monkey. No way is it a monkey. It's a little rodent. It burrows into the ground. And then somebody found out that I keep ferrets. I've kept ferrets forever. That's what my new memoir, Ferret in a Rucksack. Yeah, hitchhiking around the country with a ferret in the rucksack. And so somebody had the bright idea, why don't you teach the ferret to dance to the Gurdie? I thought, yeah, that's a really great idea. So this is a song I wrote. So and then it's going to go into a tune, Dance with the Ferret. Finds ideas and such. I find you type in Scandinavian tunes and your hurdy-gurdy box. There's many tip you get along the way with people you meet by chance. You'll often find them utterly mad of teaching a parent to dance. Well, I've kept parents for many a year, more shapes and signs is true. They're very good at running around and climbing into shoes. They'll even attempt to swim a bit, they're ever given a chance. I'd have thought it was nigh impossible to teach a ferret to dance. That's the chorus actually, I forgot to tell you. So you don't need to memorise the whole thing because the chorus changes like that. If you can come in with teaching the ferret to dance, right? It's probably the shortest chorus I've ever written, to be honest. In France long ago, as I could tell, there lived a Savoyard who sent their children out onto the streets with a cap in their hands. And now they'll sit and play tune, the gypsy children of France. Still not so strange, utterly mad of teaching a parent to dance. The Savoyard children who went out in twos, sitting side by side, playing fine tunes on the old VL. Sometimes one of them would dance, but more often than not they would bring them a mot beside the knit with pants. Still not so strange and utterly mad of teaching a parent to dance. So if you're out, get a friendly tip to steer me on my way. A piece of advice to help me along is all I have to say. Let it be something sensible, something that stands a chance, not something so strange and utterly mad as teaching a ferret to dance.
Thank you, Toni. That was absolutely superb. Absolutely loved it. Thank you. So, now, over to this lovely lady on my left, Susanna, who I believe has something to read for us from one of her works.
Yeah. Okay, tonight I'm going to read from my book, Finding the Joy in Everyday. Sorry, can you hear me okay? Yeah. When my mum passed away, I knew I wanted to write a book, really for my own self, as a cathartic way of coping with what had happened. I found the whole experience very traumatic, and it'd been going on for some time. When I tried to write what I believed was a book about grief, I realised it wasn't my book about grief. There are a lot of books about grief out there, and a lot of really good books about grief, but it didn't kind of speak to me. It wasn't what I needed and wanted at the time. Now, I am an avid journaler. I write every single day in a journal about things that have happened, and I always end my journal entries with 3 things that I've been grateful for that day. I'm a huge believer in gratitude, in expressing gratitude, in believing in gratitude, and I think that's amazing for our mental health. And so what I decided to do, I decided to use my journal entries and put them into a book. And the way I did this, I'm a I'm a big fan of observation, and most of the characters that I write about, most of the ideas that I get are from real life. There is nothing more amazing than real life people, situations, conversations. I'm an eavesdropper, I admit it. I get a lot of my ideas from listening in on other people's conversations. And one day you may find yourself in one of my books, because I just love writing about real life, even in fiction books. I always weave in real life into my fiction books. So the book is quite unusual because it's literally journal entries, and it's as it happened at the time. And so I'm going to read you one of the journal entries. This was a full year from after my mum's funeral until the day of the anniversary of her passing, the first year. So it's about 12 months, just short of 12 months. I also wrote it in this way because I needed some lightness in my life at the time. I was quite low at the time, and I needed to see the light and the joy in every day, literally. And I do believe there is joy in every single day. Even if we've had a bad day, there is always something to be grateful for. And if we write that down, we actually feel better. So I'm going to read you this chapter, and it's towards the end of the book, and it took place on Tuesday the 20th of February 2024. So here we are, the first year anniversary of Mum's passing, a day I have dreaded, but to be honest, now it is here, I am glad. It feels like an achievement to have reached this day without fearing I'm going to crumble into tiny pieces and never recover. Today is all about Mum and celebrating her life, but it is also about grief and how I have coped, managed and got through it. Go me. The grief experts say the first year is the most difficult for those left behind, a time of acceptance and readjustment, a time of wondering how you will manage without your loved one in your life. And yes, it was difficult. At times it was unbearable. But the days go by, and somehow those days turn into months, and you find yourself another year on. Sometimes it feels surreal as you live in a dreamlike state, just doing enough to let the clock tick by on yet another grief-ridden day. And yet, through journaling, I have found many genuine moments of joy. I have been swept away by intense feelings of gratitude for my own life, yes, even on days where the grief bit deep and hard. So today I find myself sat on a beach in Bridlington. I am holding a tiny amount of my beloved mother's ashes in a small wooden box that I deliberately kept back so I would have enough to scatter on her favourite beach. My fingers naturally caress the box, feeling every corner, every detail, infusing love through my hands deep into the ashes contained within. She is with me as I sit on the golden sand looking out to the grey North Sea as it tumbles its way to the shoreline. It is an unexpected day of wall-to-wall sunshine and blue skies. Divine intervention, perhaps? The weather certainly makes my difficult day easier and lighter. The February sun warms my face, which I tilt towards the sky. I want to drink the warm nectar of that big yellow ball as it heals my anxious body of sadness. I feel immobile as I sit alone, quietly, gently, on this vast Yorkshire beach. I feel as though the beach has cleared just for this moment, just me and Mum and the sea, ready to accept Mum in a cloud of dust, to finally take her home, but still living within my heart. I am nervous, yet determined that this is the right thing to do. Bridlington Beach, the place of many family holidays, the place where my mum taught my children how to build sandcastles, the place where she was happy watching her beloved grandchildren play freely without a care in the world. I am suddenly aware of my own precious memories as they trickle down my face in the guise of tears. I will never forget you, Mum, never. I breathe deeply, hoping for a sign that it is the right time. A seagull's cry, perhaps, a cloud in the shape of a heart. Wide-eyed, I look intently, but no sign appears. I guess this is the moment that only I can decide. I take out my phone and take a photograph of the scene before me. I never want to forget this moment. Running my hand through the fine sand, I think of time and how it goes so quickly. It feels like yesterday I was sat on this very spot with Mum and Dad and my young daughters, and now I am here alone to scatter my mum's ashes, to say goodbye one final time. Brushing the sand away, I make my way to the sea, clutching my precious box close to my chest. I hear only the roar of the waves as they crash on the shore, the wind as it sweeps across the bay. For a moment, I feel totally isolated, alone in the world, now an orphan, devoid of parents and the feeling of security that they bring. I glance round and there is no one on the beach, except for a lone dog walker, who is concentrating hard on throwing a ball for her four-legged friend. I suddenly wish I wasn't alone. I have a momentary panic, which subsides quickly, as I realise it has to be this way. It was just me and Mum at the beginning of my life, and now it is just me and Mum at the end of her journey. As I spot sunbeams radiating from the bright sun, I nod my head, acknowledging that it is now time. Yes, Mum, it is now time to say goodbye again. But this time we are not in some soulless crematorium. We are here together on the beach of memories where we spent so many happy times. I remove my shoes and wade out into the ice-cold sea, waves gathering momentum around my frozen legs. I open the lid of the box and say, I love you, as I tip it on its side, ready for the waves to catch its contents. At that moment, a strong gust of wind blows in from nowhere, and the dust scatters in the air, almost looking for a way to heaven. I grimace at the sandpaper texture on my lips. I smile. I take a deep breath. It is time for me to go back to reality, back to my husband and my dog who are waiting on the harbour. How did it go, love? Okay? Did you scatter the ashes okay? I smile. I laugh out loud. It could only happen to me. It went well, but I think I just ate Mum. Is it just me and my overactive imagination? But did I hear Mum laughing somewhere in the ether? 3 things I am grateful for today. Number 1, Bridlington Beach and the memories. 2, the Yorkshire sun. I needed to feel you today. 3, the unpredictable weather in Yorkshire. Mum would have laughed. Maybe she arranged it. Thank you.
Thank you, Susanna. That was absolutely lovely. Thank you for reading that. Really appreciate it. And Toni, if you'd like to rejoin us here,
Yeah, sure.
I do apologise for this cheap deodorant. If you can come back. Now, Edwin from Books and Beverages has assured me, much against my protestations that the evening really is in the hand of these 2 ladies, that I'm not going to get out alive either. I do have something which I can read out from one of my novels, should time permit. I am, however, aware of the time. I'm aware that Blind Jack's is still serving and you'll be itching to get away. And I also have several questions which I'd like to ask to both of our authors this evening, and I've got no doubt that many of you will have some questions which you would like to ask as well. So what I was planning was to ask each of our authors a certain question which hopefully we'll all find interesting, and then, time permitting, I'll chip in my 2 pennyworth at the end of each of these. If if I can turn to Susanna first, and Toni, don't go far because I'm going to ask you the same question in a few minutes.
Fair enough.
And the first question is this: one thing I noticed about both our authors this evening is that they write across the spectrum from, shall we say, a philosophical or a didactic perspective. Talking about things like, and I've also read some of your blog as well, Susanna, talking about grief, friendships, aging, and what all that means. And Toni, I know that you've got many strings to your bow, if you pardon the pun, with the music therapy, the wildlife conservation, things like that. And then on the other side, we've got what you might think of as entertainment fiction, so supernatural, science fiction, that kind of thing. And Susanna, you with your spy novel. So my question is, when you're writing the, shall we say, entertainment fiction stuff, do you bring in any of the philosophical didactic stuff into that, or do you keep them apart? And if you bring it in, why do you do that? And if you keep them apart, why do you like to do that? Susanna, if I can ask you first.
Okay, I actually bring in all aspects of my work in together. I don't keep them apart. The reason for that is I always have some kind of a message in my writing. There's always it can be hidden or it can be quite obvious, but I like to bring in particularly my well-being work within my, say, my fiction, for instance, the World War II or short stories, and that's because I believe real life laps over into fiction quite easily. I think that the two marry each other quite well, and I get a lot of my inspiration from real life, and I think it ties up really well with fiction, short stories, even poetry, to be honest. And so I like to I'm very passionate about having messages. There may be messages of hope, there may be a message of maybe a mental health message, but I like to bring it all into one, personally.
So without giving away too many spoilers for the spy novel, how does that translate? Does he find moments of hope or moments of grief, moments of enlightenment? How does that work? Well,
I'm writing a non-fiction book at the moment about bullying, and I have taken some elements of that into the World War II novel. Now, unless you know that I'm right, you've read one book, you wouldn't tie them up. But it is about a community. That obviously the World War II is about a community. It's like a spy novel set in a community, and I have taken some of the message that I want to get across into that novel. And there is something about grief actually in the novel as well.
And about overcoming grief and finding something at the end of it. I'm a little bit hesitant to push you too much because I don't want to give away too many spoilers before.
I haven't finished it. You were
okay.
You were.
Toni, could I ask you the same question? Do you bring it across into your fictional works?
Yeah, I'd never come across the word didactic. I had to look it up. I haven't got a clue what it meant. I still can't remember now. So when I got your message, yes, I thought, didactic, what is that? Okay. So I just basically write whatever suits me. Yeah. So I just write for me. I'm not writing for any other reason. And so in terms of non-fiction, the first book was the music therapy book. I've been working for like 5 years with people with learning disabilities, and somebody said, well, doing music therapy sessions, somebody said, why don't you put a book together just to help other people who are starting from scratch? So I thought that was, I'd do that. And then I was teaching at Hull Uni. I self-published it, and it did really well. And then I was teaching at Hull Uni, and the publisher picked it up and said, we'll publish it. So I thought, fair enough. Bad idea. You sell loads of copies and they get all the money. So I'm not doing that again. So I've self-published since. So in terms of whatever grabs me, whatever inspires, like I was saying about walking around the Bronte Museum and you see something about the nameless children, and you think, okay, And then I don't have any plan. I don't know if that's coming in one of the other questions. I can't remember now. But I don't plan anything at all. I just write as it comes. So just like, almost like somebody, I think I described it, somebody as like dreaming while awake. So you're seeing it in your mind as if you're seeing a film, and then you're writing it all down. So in a sort of, and this is with the absence, I don't drink alcohol, so, and it's in the absence of mind-altering drugs as well. So you're just like in a, almost like, not quite a trance-like state, but you have to go somewhere where you can write where nobody's going to bother you, put it like that. So yeah, does that answer the question vaguely?
Yes, I think so. I guess what I was getting at, do any of the characters in any of your fictional books, do they play the guitar, do they play the hurdy-gurdy, are they involved in conservation? Does any of that creep across?
Well, that's, yeah, room between the floorboards, because I worked in labs quite a lot. The first degree was in zoology, so I worked in, botany, yeah. So there's a link there with somebody working in a physics lab. But yeah, so there is. I think if you're writing, obviously something's going to come from you, your own experiences. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, like I said, I'm sure Edward's not going to let me escape, and I did promise you I'd throw in my 2 cents. I write in the crime genre, and I actually like to try and keep it a book that's, for me, written for entertainment. Its primary purpose is to entertain. Now, I do get around quite a lot of author communities, and I chat to dozens of authors every year. Some of them, particularly the ones who are particularly engaged in politics, shall we say, feel that not only can they, but almost that it's their duty to convey their politics through their fiction. One of them actually says to me, "Life is politics." And it's interesting because I'm totally the opposite. I would say I've succeeded if someone can read a novel and not have the foggiest idea who I would vote for, because for me, I think we get bombarded with sanctimony too much, actually. If anyone's been on what was called Twitter, now called X, but I guess we're coming up to local elections, so Facebook and Instagram will explode in it as well. It's like you just can't open any form of social media in the run-up to an election without some crashingly boring person explaining why you should vote for somebody who's never even heard of them, and that nobody is ever going to change their mind based on what anybody's going to say. So for me, entertainment is entertainment, and I absolutely try and keep it that way. There's no cause, there's no message. I don't try and promote any particular worldview or anything. The purpose is to entertain, full stop. So, on that note, let me move along to my second question. If I can start with you again, Susanna. And this is particularly talking about your spy novel set in World War II. Now, I'm guessing for that there's going to be a lot of research involved, finding out everything that was happening around that time. Now, one of the things that I face as a crime writer is that you're stuck in a paradox. We have readers who are absolute sticklers for accuracy. I just go, oh no, the police would never do it like that. They would have done this, that and the other. I see people get 1-star reviews because somebody actually didn't understand how the safety on a Glock pistol works as opposed to a SIG or a Beretta or something like that. Some people get very passionate about this. On the other hand, what you find is if you talk to any detective, they will tell you that detective work is unfeasibly tedious most of the time. And I had a friend who worked at MI6 who told me again that despite what you may read, it's 99% crashing boredom. So I guess what I'm saying is, how do you resolve that paradox between accuracy and yet being able to create a compelling narrative?
Well, with regard to the World War II novel, it's obviously historical, and research is absolutely crucial because, I mean, I studied World War II at university as part of my degree. I'm passionate about everything World War II. I think I know a lot about it. I've read a lot about it. I've written about it. But you can guarantee there will be one person out there that picks you up on the smallest detail. So you have to be accurate. You have to be accurate. Now, luckily with World War II, there is a lot of information out there. There are a lot of reference books. I still double check absolutely everything. But it's particularly with historical, you have to get it right, while weaving in a story as well. And it's very, very easy while getting carried away writing to just lose track of where you should be. And it can be something as simple as, what is that character wearing? If they suddenly, are wearing something that is not of that era, somebody out there will find it, honestly. And so you have to, it's almost like when you're editing, you're not just editing, grammar, etc. You are double checking every piece of historical fact as you go along. Now, I once did, a long time ago, I did a talk on World War II, and I played an excerpt, a Winston Churchill speech. It was just part of the talk I was doing, and it was on a recording. At the end of the talk, a gentleman came up to me. He was quite elderly and said, put his hand on my shoulder and said, "I don't want to tell you this, but do you know Winston Churchill has died?" And I said, well, yeah, and couldn't understand that. And I think what he thought was, I think he thought it was on a radio or something. I don't know what he thought. And so I had some explaining to do. I said, well, it's just a recording. And he said, I was a bit worried that you thought he was still with us, because he's not. I went, right, yeah, and I kind of know that. This was only like 10 years ago or something. And bless him. And I don't know if he just got a bit confused, but then he certainly got me confused, because even I started to doubt myself at one point. And but you have to get things, particularly with historical things, and even like cozy crime or detective, you have to be right, because there is always somebody out there that knows more than you. You think you know it all, trust me, you don't. And there is always someone out there that knows more than you. And I will always come across them. It's guaranteed.
Thank you very much, Susanna. We're going to come on in a little while to research and things like that. So that's great. Toni, if I can turn to you, because I guess you'll be in the similar thing. You write about science. One of the and I don't admit this to many people. But one of your books is about, I noticed it is about a guy who's a theoretical physicist. And my degree is actually in theoretical physics.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
And this is not something that I admit
Very
publicly very often.
Very
so
impressive.
You're in a very privileged crowd there.
Yeah.
But again, I've worked in a physics laboratory. It was unendingly boring most of the time.
Really?
Oh yeah, counting pions passing through a plastic sheet and trying to record.
I love working in the lab.
I don't even know. But again, how do you square being accurate in what you do, and at the same time have a narrative that keeps moving and keeps people entertained?
Okay, so basically I don't have any plot. Some people, I have no plan whatsoever. Sometimes I've basically got a title and might have the last paragraph and I've got a clue how it's going to go, and that doesn't change. So and I know everyone writes in different ways. If you read Writing Magazine or whatever, lots of people do things, everyone does it something in a different way. In terms of getting things accurate, for instance, The Nameless Children, that was in the 1800s. So what I had to do with that was not plan in advance, don't do any research in advance, zero. But if I'm writing, something suddenly comes to me, I think, did that actually happen in 1850? So I'll just check on my phone. The rest of my phone's permanently on silent because I run a hedgehog rescue and I can't be doing with people phoning me up and beeping and whatnot on the phone. So the phone's on silent, so if you're writing, that's completely fine. So I just check that any facts are correct. But that's only very occasionally that you would need to do that. But as you say, you've got to make sure it's right. Yeah.
Do you ever find any time that you have to just play around and give yourself a little bit of wiggle room with the facts in order to keep a story going?
No.
No?
No, I don't do that.
Splendid.
No, I don't. So I write in exercise books and then I just type it up. I type it from the book, and then after that I'll start to edit after that, once it's typed up.
Brilliant. Do you tend to write about things that are close to your heart, or things that you know, or have you been tempted to say, you know what, I'm going to write about something that's really out of my comfort zone, and I'm just going to research it and do it?
I don't research anything at all. That's totally not. When it comes to the hedgehogs, I've run a hedgehog rescue since 1990, so obviously that's non-fiction, and that's based on everything I've done on the papers I've published in the hedgehog world so that's quite different. But in terms of fiction, it's just whatever comes into your head. So the room between the floorboards, I was thinking yesterday, what on earth, where did I get that idea from? Basically, somebody looks through and sees a parallel world through a hole in the floorboards. And I remember then there's a guy I knew, no longer with us, a fellow Irish fiddle. We played in the sessions together in Manchester. And he said there was a spider that used to appear on his ceiling and then it used to vanish, and he had no idea where it had gone. And this somehow clicked me into, when I was on my own, to this strange world where you've got a parallel world, and that resulted in Room Between the Floorboards. So does that answer the question a bit?
Yes, I think it does.
Yeah. So basically, it's triggered by something. I say, like the Nameless Children, I've already mentioned that. The Dead Space, that was a natural follow-on from that. Samuel on the Stolen Words, that's just, again, I obviously live in a strange mindset most of the time. But it's so it's just whatever comes to me at the time. I don't have a plan.
So this leads me on to when you say writing a song, for example.
Yeah.
Do you treat songwriting in the same way that you treat book writing?
Yeah.
Or do you find them totally different disciplines?
No, exactly the same. So I write songs in, and it sounds like I'm bragging, I'm totally not. This is just how I write songs. I know other songwriters do as well. I write a song and it takes no more than half an hour, and often 15 minutes. And then if I have an instrument with me, fine, but often I find myself, for instance, I went to see the film Lion, about Saru Briley, a little lad who was found at the age of 5 in Calcutta railway station, many kilometres away from home, didn't know where he was. He got shipped off to Australia, and 25 years later he's getting flashbacks to what happened with his mother in India. So I came out of the film, grabbed the bits from paper from the box office, and they know me in City Screen in York, so they're used to me. I grabbed the bits of paper, sat in a corner and write the entire song. Then I got home, put a tune to it, and then banged it on one of my albums. And that's how I write everything. And the most recent one, which I've got out, is to do with trans women. My sister was trans, and I was in the hedgehog shed one morning, and the words came in my head, so I wrote it all on one of the hedgehog record sheets, wrote the whole thing down, and then so it sounds like I'm trying to show off. I'm not showing off. That's just how it works for me. So the whole thing's done in one go. And I might occasionally have to change one word or take one word out, because when you're putting a tune to it, it needs to scan. It needs to have a rhythm to it. So you might find you've got the in, or you should put other in. You should put an extra syllable in. But otherwise, it's exactly the same technique. So I can't write in any other way. That's
okay.
But friends of mine who sing in the folk scene, some of them maybe take a couple of weeks, but everyone's different. It's not saying it's better, it's just different. So that's how I do it.
Yeah, I mean, just for the benefit, probably most people in the audience will be aware, there's sort of like two ends of the spectrum when it comes to writing fiction. There's one of the people that are called plotters, who plot everything out in advance before they even get the keyboard or the biro out. And at the other end, you've got what's called pantsers, because they're working off the seat of the pants, which sounds more like your zone. And surprisingly, actually, you'd think pantsers would be somehow sort of like less sort of like professional, shall we say, than the plotters. But if you actually look it up, you'll find that actually most successful authors out there, including a lot of the classic author writers, were in fact actually pantsers. That's a very well established way to go about it. Toni, with your spy novel, are you plotting it or pantsing?
I'm a pantser.
You're pantsing it as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you know how it's going to end?
Very vaguely, yeah. If I'm honest, yeah. I've not actually planned it. You know, I did a writing course, and it was we had a big section on storyboarding, and so you would get a big sheet of paper, and a lot of writers do this, which is great for them. It didn't really work for me. So you get a big piece of paper, and you kind of put lines down and across, and so you've got different squares. So you start with chapter 1, 2, and you just put a few notes in each box, and so you get to chapter 40, whatever it is. So I tried that in the workshop. I went home and tried it. For me, it crushed the spontaneity, and I was trying to stick so rigidly to these little boxes. I became a bit obsessed, and it was absolutely dreadful. My writing just crumbled. It was trying to confine me. Yeah. And because, you know, like Toni said, I can have we go to Eden Camp a lot, and I went about 2-3 weeks ago and saw something there. I thought, oh my gosh, that is going to have to somehow get into my story, and yet I'd not thought of it. It was just by seeing something, and it triggered it. And so if I'd planned this little storyboard, I'd be thinking, nah, it's not going to fit in any of these little boxes. I can't use it. And yet I know that's it doesn't feel natural to me to plot so rigidly. You know, like Toni said, it doesn't feel. But some writers do it, and that's fine. Everybody's different.
Do you ever find yourself going back to a previous chapter and thinking, oh, hang on a minute, that doesn't quite work now. I've got to go back to chapter 3 and tweak that bit. Do you ever do any of that? Or
I just write until it gets to the end.
Pushing forward.
Yeah, I don't. It's the one thing, if I've ever advised anyone about writing, is not to do chapter 1 and then go back and edit it, because you will get stuck on chapter 1 forever, and you will never ever finish your piece of work. I just plough through it, and if something doesn't work, I'll see it on the first edit. But I would have to go down 40 chapters and then come back. Don't start editing. It's just I just don't think it works.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Just on that point, it's just reminded me of a little something. There's often a huge debate in the author community, and you go to bits of social media, you'll see people talking about it all the time, and that's the importance of the first line of a novel. And there are two very contrasting views on this. At one end, you've got people who say, yes, the first line of a novel is absolutely crucial. That's what grabs the reader. That's what pulls them in. The first line of the novel has to be exactly right. And then at the other end of people say, nah, that's a myth. How many books have you read last year, and how many first lines can you remember? In fact, out of all the books in your life that you've ever read, how many of them can you remember the first line of? Maybe one or two. Well, I think we all know Moby Dick and Pride and Prejudice and 1984 at a push. Or is that the clock striking 13, isn't it? That I think. Anyway, so I'll ask you first, Toni. Do you worry too much about the first line of your novel, or
no?
No. Just go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Susanna?
Not so much. I do think that a reader, I know this from my own personal reading, if the first chapter hasn't grabbed me, I will put the book away, because life's too short, life's quite precious, and I've got piles of books to read, and so the first chapter for me is quite important, but I usually keep that quite short. I'm a short chapter writer. Right. Hooking people. So with this theory that I have, that if it's when you go to bed and you've got a book, okay, I think we all do it. You look ahead and you think, I'm a bit tired. How long is this chapter? If it's a short chapter, you're more likely to read it, and that to me is a hook to the reader.
Yeah.
Don't put long chapters in, like on and on. It's what Dan Brown uses famously in Da Vinci Code. Short chapters hook people in, and if they're a bit tired, they might read the second chapter. That's how I work. So as long as the first chapter is interesting, I think it will get people to read more.
Yeah.
And Toni, I guess it sounds like you have a similar strategy for chapters and the way things go.
It varies, to be quite honest. But Susanna was saying to do in terms of reading. If you're reading a book, whether it grabs you or not, it's whether you've read. You don't have to even read the whole chapter, just the first page, and whether it brings you in or not. Yeah.
Again, just so that Edwin can make sure that he's had his 2 penny without me. As a crime author, I find that I do have to do a little bit of planning ahead. And I have made my own term for how I call it a wire frameworker. I sort of in advance I set up a rough framework of the thing, like the framework of a prefab house. And then having got the framework in place, I can then start at the beginning. I can kind of pants my way through the framework, if that makes sense. But because of the crime novel, everything has to lock together. You absolutely can't have any plot holes, and if the MacGuffin was found here, it's got to be used here, and everything has to. So there is constantly going back and adjusting things to make sure that stuff locks together. I don't worry too much about the first line, but I do worry about the first chapter. I reckon that I can probably get away with giving the reader at least the first chapter to get grabbed by. So as long as the first chapter in itself, I think if you're grabbed by then I'm satisfied. I've got a reasonable job done. And the other thing I try and do is I try wherever possible to end every chapter on a little bit of a cliffhanger. Yeah. Because I've found that's actually quite a good way for people to say, well, that's what stops me putting the book down. Because every time I say, okay, I'll just finish this chapter, they get to the end of the chapter, there's a little cliffhanger. Okay, go on then, I'll read the next one. And that's what keeps driving them on throughout the whole book. I've had people say they've actually read my entire book in one sitting on that basis, because just one more chapter.
Yeah. Can I just add something to that?
Yes.
Yeah, so in terms of planning ahead, I don't, but when it came to The Nameless Children, there were 2 time frames and lots of different people. So I actually got sheets of paper, about A3 sheets, and actually would write a little summary of each chapter and use different highlighters so I wouldn't lose somebody along the way. That's the only books I did it with was The Nameless Children, The Dead Space, but I found that really, really helpful, just so I keep on track of it. But it was like written afterwards as opposed to in advance, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Which actually just brings me on neatly to my last question of the whole thing before I throw it open, which is to just talk about how you write, not so much the creative process, but sort of like physically. Is it pens and notepads you've talked about using, and how much does technology play? Do you use the internet for research? How does that? What kind of software do you use for your writing? How do you sort of like plan things out with physical pens and papers? And finally, what do you think about AI? Does that have anything to offer?
Okay, so leaving the AI thing till the end. So I already mentioned I just use an exercise book and just write pen and paper and then type it up later. So I'm trying to remember all the different questions now you're asking. And then basically I put it together myself. I send it in terms of technology. So I just type it up using Word. I don't use any other software at all. And I produce the books myself, so it's sent to the printer, print ready, and they send me an unbound copy. So I put the cover together, the whole lot, and Is this helping at all? Maybe not.
Yes,
Anyway.
this is exactly what I'm looking at.
So it's put together. But basically, in terms of technology, it's just me using Word, and that's it. And you can create a cover. So if you want to release the book as an ebook, a lot of these are out as ebooks, except the Hedgehog books and the latest were Ferret book. You can just produce on a Word document. You can just produce the cover. And it's completely free. If you think you're doing an ebook, I totally recommend it because you don't pay anything at all to do it. But you just use a Word document, you put the photograph on, and it's just really, really easy. You mentioned AI. I don't find it a problem particularly. And it's quite helpful. It's a bit unnerving though when you come to look at your emails and it's suggested somebody sent you an email. This is what you should, have you seen that? It's just really weird, isn't it? So that's the only thing I find weird about AI. But yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Is there anything else?
No, that's it. I think you've covered all the bases there.
Okay. Fair enough.
Susanna, if you can remember all the parts of the question,
yeah.
ask you the same.
How do I write? I use a program called Atticus, and that is for non-Mac PCs. I think for Mac, a friend of mine uses Vellum, but I use Atticus, and which has completely transformed my writing. On Atticus, you are literally working within, because I have a lot of books on the go. I am, ashamedly, I've probably got about maybe 9 books on there, all unfinished. I am not a person who starts a book and just finishes it and moves on to the next. I think it depends what mood I'm in or where the research is at the moment or how much more work I've got to do. So Atticus literally lines your books up in order. So you've got your books in front of you when you go onto your first page and you click on there and you work within Atticus. I think it's transformed my writing. I think it's amazing. You then go into templates and it formats your book for you, because the biggest problem for most authors is formatting. I think it gives people the biggest headache, and this program formats everything for me. And then I get the cover done from Edwin, does my covers, very pretty, I'm sure you'll agree. And then everything is then uploaded from Atticus up to Amazon. I personally, I'm just more productive with that rather than trying to figure out, because once you start going into Amazon, you have to look at, your edging and the size, etc., if it's a physical book. So that's the way I work. I do have a notebook. I carry a notebook and a pen around with me all the time, for when I'm eavesdropping, because I couldn't remember it otherwise. I'm not ashamed to say it, because honestly, what people, real life and people give me is just huge. They can be quite sad things or happy things, or it's just a snippet of a sentence. You think, oh my goodness, that's amazing. That would be brilliant. Or sometimes it's how a person is dressed or their personality. And most often I don't know these people. I'm just, passing them, or they're in a shop. I once wrote a play that actually was accepted for a final. And it was I'm ashamed to say it, really, I've never admitted this, but I was on the M1 in the ladies' toilet at a service station. There was a long queue and there were 2 girls in front of me, and the conversation they were having was very serious to them, but it was absolutely hilarious. So I locked myself in the toilet and wrote everything down as quickly as I could remember it. And then I wrote a play which was accepted and it was performed on stage. And so inspiration can come literally from anywhere. So I always keep a notebook and a pen with me, just to write down those snippets. As for AI, I use AI. I'm not ashamed to say I use it, and I use it for research. It is amazing. I think that AI is here. It's more advanced than we know it, than we think it is. And I think that the best way to approach AI is to learn about it and learn how to use it properly. The problem is, and I have some writing colleagues who say, oh my goodness, you've got to stay away from AI, but AI is everywhere. I use Grammarly, for instance, for grammar corrections as well. And a lot of publishers in the UK use AI. We think that they're still using the traditional ways. They're all using AI. Excuse me. So I use it for research. And one word of caution with any research is, if you're researching, always double check what you've just found out, whether it's through a book or a reference book in the library, AI, or archives, particularly for historical. Double check the facts that you've been given, because AI can get it wrong, but the person in the middle of the street can get it wrong as well. So, but I love AI. I mean, I used it recently. I think I asked it something like, give me an image of, it was for a 1940s headdress that a bride would wear in wartime Britain. And it came up with an image, and it was literally like that. It's so quick. And so I'm not ashamed to use it for research. I think it's got its place, and I think it should be embraced and used appropriately, is what I would say.
Agree.
Yeah, I'm a little bit different from a lot of authors, in that a lot of author friends that I know and talk to, they have this strange relationship with stationery. They love stationery. They're forever going out buying note. Oh look, I've bought a new notepad. I've bought a new pen, and now it's new, and I'm frightened to write in it. You look like yes.
Yeah.
Toni?
Oh, I'm not frightened to write in
No,
it.
I just buy like really cheap exercise books.
Yes, so do I. I get like the A4 pads from Yorkshire Traders, and they've got coffee rings all over them.
Yeah, Yorkshire Trading's great for that.
Brilliant,
yeah,
isn't it? Yeah,
really good.
I'm never out of that shop.
Nope. It's brilliant.
When I finally go, you can bury me in Yorkshire Trader.
Yeah, totally good.
But I use Microsoft Word mainly. One of the things it has taught me, because when you're writing crime, you're forever going back and changing, but oh no, hang on a minute, that bit doesn't work now, because I've got to go back and do that. So you've got to rework half a chapter that you wrote 2 months ago or something like that, so that it now ties up with the thing that you're writing now, forever going backwards and forwards. And the one thing it has done is it's made me appreciate people like the Bronte sisters and Thomas Hardy and Charles Dickens and all that crowd, because I sit there and think, how the hell did they do that without Microsoft Word? So we've got a candle and a quill pen or something. Sod that, I'd have never been an author in those days. If I've not got Microsoft Word, I'm not doing it. When it comes to AI, I think, I never use it for writing any of my stuff. But I think we've got to accept the genie's out of the bottle now. And if you're not careful, you're gonna be like King Canute or the blacksmith shaking his fist at the first car that drives through the village. You can't be like that. I think one of the things I've got, because a lot of my novels are based around like cryptic clue solving and things like that, and cryptic riddle solving, that it's not something that AI can do, at least just yet. So I've got a little bit of something that it can't do. On the novel that I'm working with now, AI is a lot more advanced than when I was working on my first novel, and it does have a use, because so like I say, it has cryptic riddles and cryptic clues in it. And sometimes I'll be struggling to find words that will fit into a clue. So I might, and I'm just going to pick one out of the air for sake of it, like, give me the name of a musician whose surname is an anagram of a fish. Something like that. But you put that into ChatGPT or Grok or something like that, and it'll say, I don't know, Geddy Lee, his surname is Eel backwards. Brilliant! It would take me 7 hours sat there scratching my head to think about that. Whereas AI can at least provide great. Now I can complete the cryptic crossword clue that I'm putting into the novel. Safe in the knowledge that it can do that. And things like internet, anagram generators and stuff. It's absolutely brilliant for. So. I'm just looking at the time now. Before we go, does anyone in the audience have any questions they'd like to ask either of our two authors here this evening?
What do you think about these, Maria will know this, it drives me mad, TV personalities writing books? There seems to be this whole raft of people that, you know, from Richard Osman to Shirley Ballas to Anton Dubett to David Wally, you know, Frank Lampard. It just, are they actually writing?
Well,
I don't think
they are. No,
I think they're ghostwriters.
I thought because they are a name.
Yeah.
but I thought somebody else writes
is
the
it
book for
fair?
them.
Yeah.
Don't
Most
you
of
think?
them, of them are written by ghostwriters.
Yes, exactly. It's ghostwriters.
Is it fair?
No.
Because it crushes other
Land on
authors.
a publisher's desk,
Yeah.
and oh, this is a well-known name, we'll publish it.
But-
Whereas other
yeah.
people are slaving away in the
Yeah.
background and can't get their work.
Yeah,
done.
they're going
It
to.
drives me mad.
It drives me mad, to be honest. They're going to sell a lot of copies with a famous name. That's how it is. If somebody wrote a memoir very similar to mine, mine would just be thrown in the bin, 100%. I think that's why I really advocate authors to self-publish, because you could be waiting for the rest of your life to get published, because you're now up against famous names, and you know you can tell. You know, just when the personality pops up, you think, you know, Frank Lampard, for instance, you're thinking no chance. Yeah. They've just put their name to it.
No, we're not right, Charlotte.
It's just,
But I just wonder, everyone said, oh, have you read Richard Osman? Nope, I will not read
yeah.
it.
But actually, booksellers as well are going down that road. They are really shunning other, shall we say, independent authors, because they will sell more books, and money's coming into it now. It's not right. I think Richard Osman actually is one of the ones that actually has written his own, I think, because his mother was in a sheltered housing complex similar. That's what gave him the idea. I don't know how much help he's had, but I think he's quite an intelligent person. I quite like his books, to be honest. But the really obvious ones that, you know, these B-listers that I call them, they've written a novel or a book, you just roll your eyes and think, you know, right, okay. But as you say, we spend hours and hours writing, and but that's why I say self-publish. If you're going to write, self-publish.
Sorry, just to add to that, that lots of shops, bookshops will take. I found they've taken my books.
Yeah.
No trouble at all. Really.
Independent
Independent
ones,
bookshops have taken my books, and Waterstones as well.
Yeah.
So you can, you know, I totally recommend getting your books self-published.
Yeah.
Have a look at mine, not to try and sell them, but just to see how you can put a book together quite easily yourself.
Yeah.
It's not hard at all.
On the flip side to that, though, I do think famous people writing books is a great way to get children into reading books.
Yeah.
Because my niece, she's 5 years old, she's seen someone on the TV, they've got a book out, she now loves reading.
Yeah.
So while I don't think it's necessarily great for adults doing it, I think it's great for children. That they
That's
see
a
someone,
good point.
they've got a book and they're reading. And because I think it's probably something that for children, it might be going. It might, especially now that everyone's just on the phones. Whereas if they see people, I think it's good.
I agree.
Because I know David Williams does a lot of children's books, doesn't he? So if that can get children,
I do agree with that. Yeah, and also I have noticed the National Trust, for instance, they sometimes when they do their bigger summer events, I think they did the Gruffalo last year at Fountains Abbey, and that in a way could introduce kids to the story, and then they go get the book. I mean, she's a brilliant author anyway. She's a proper author, in inverted commas.
Some come and go though, don't they?
Yeah.
You know, a couple of years down the road, they've kind of like disappeared off the scene. So that inspiration's gone.
Yeah.
Like I say, Julia Donaldson.
I mean, she's been around forever and probably will still be a classic book. But I just wondered, the National Trust picked up on her. Is it because she is a classic, or what I call a classic author? And that may entice the kids, because they did a massive promotion on it, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. They're coming for an activity, but actually they're drawing them into those books, which are great books. So, but I do agree, getting children to read is a big thing. Yeah.
And for my part, actually, my doctors warned me not to talk about celebrity authors until I've taken my daily blood pressure medication, because it absolutely boils my bladder when I see, because I get to meet lots of and crime authors also seem particularly prone to having, everybody seems to want to write a crime novel nowadays, and it's a shame because I get to meet so many of them. If any of you get a chance to go to Harrogate Crime Festival, do so. And in the beer tent, which is where you'll find us all, there are absolutely fantastic crime authors who are writing absolutely brilliant stuff and struggling to get a look in because all that people want to stock is mediocre slop from celebrities. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the matter.
Yeah. Have you got a favourite crime writer yourself that you read?
Nowadays, all my favourite crime authors are among my personal friends. I don't know whether that's coincidence or whether it's just happened that I've particularly got along with them and sought them out. But it's actually quite nice in a way, because you've got a bookshelf full of books, and you can say, well, I've been out for a pint with him, or I've been out with her, and it's sort of like they're not only like novelists, but your friends as well. It feels really great. I would recommend it if anyone does like crime. Can I recommend Malcolm Holling-Drake, Anne Block-Switch, Liz Mystery, Axel Moulton, Rob Ashman, all absolutely superb crime authors. You will not go wrong with any of those, and it'll beat a Richard Osman book any day this week.
Can I ask which is the more important to all of you, reading or writing?
Difficult one, really.
That is, yeah.
But probably writing, actually. Yeah, actually, it's not difficult. It's writing.
Yeah, writing for me.
Yeah.
I think you have to keep reading for yourself anyway.
I like reading just because I like reading. But
if somebody took away my ability to write, I think I'd feel crushed, to be honest. Even if it's just a poem, I could just write a poem in my notebook every day. I would miss it so much because I literally take my notebook everywhere. Yeah.
I tend to find that when you start writing, it eats into your time for reading. You don't have hours in the day to do both. And typically when you're working on a novel, reading tends to stop. And so bits of reading tends to take place in between writing novels for me. And yes, the strange paradox is that unless you've actually done a lot of reading, I don't think you can really be a good writer, because you need to absorb other people's reading in order to soak in the tools of the craft.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
That's a good point.
Bit like that. The other thing that you find, and Toni, I'm going to ask you this one because you're a fellow musician. When you're a musician, you, certainly in my case, I tend to, since I learned to play musical instruments, every time I go to a concert, I look at other musicians differently. I'm not just sat there watching them and listening. I'm kind of, in my brain, I'm analysing them as well. And since becoming an author, it's affected the way I read. I don't just read. I analyse as I go. Oh yeah, I like the way that she did that. Oh, I like the way that he did this and that. Do you find yourself? I mean, do you analyse other musicians and do you analyse other authors?
In terms of musicians, well, I play in sessions mostly with fiddle and occasionally the gurdie, and the sessions in York, like I mentioned before, Manchester Irish sessions. So we're not analysing, we're just playing. We're just enjoying the music, getting into the trance-like state, and we just play tune after tune after tune. So most of us can't read music. We're pretty poor at it, or maybe read it slow. Or if you give somebody a sheet of music in a session, they'll say, fine, how does it go? So if they know how it goes, you've got a fighting chance of understanding the notes. But so we're not analysing anything really, we're just playing. So yeah. So and in a concert, if I go into a concert with some really good musicians, Irish musicians playing, then I'm just enjoying it. I'm not analysing anything. No.
And analysing other authors, do you analyse other authors when you read their work, or do you just enjoy the
not
reading
really.
experience?
No, not at all really. Just that sometimes you come across them as a typo, but you say, oh, typo, but that's easily missed. I think in Simon and the Stolen Words, this is after it's been edited like 7 times. I've got 7 for some reason, and it's come as an unbound copy to me, and I've had a chance to check it, and it's still got a sentence in which says stronger than fiction, as opposed to stranger than, obviously. I thought, how can you miss that? So, and apart from the odd typos, no, I don't analyse authors.
I
do not analyse other people's writing at all, because everybody's so individual. Why should I analyse it? I read to enjoy, and it's nice to switch off. I can appreciate a piece of writing, or sometimes I can read it actually, and I actually didn't enjoy it, but that doesn't mean it's not a good piece of writing. It just means it's not for me. It's not the right genre or something. But I don't analyse people's writing at all. No, because each to their own. No, I don't. It doesn't affect the way I write anyway.
No, it's
no.
It's really affected me. I tend to look at stuff through different eyes now, but that maybe speaks more volumes about me as a person, really. Any other questions from the audience?
Yeah, just and kind of taking on from what you were just talking about just then. A couple of things Susanna said was life's too short to continue with a book after a chapter you're not enjoying, and you read to enjoy. I wonder what you think about book clubs, because
I'm in one.
I'm a member of 2 book clubs, and it struck me that I don't think I've read a book for enjoyment in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I don't have time to read books I want to read, because I'm reading all these sodding worthy books.
Yeah.
I'm plowing my way through, because I don't want to be the person who turns up again and says, well, I didn't read it because I didn't enjoy it. So,
can I make a suggestion? Short stories.
I don't like, personally, I don't like short stories.
But it's a good way, because it's just short story, it's quick.
But
it might be a gateway.
The other week, it's ages since I picked up a book in this library, just because I had time, I wanted to read it.
I totally get it, because I am in Knaresborough Book Club, Cozy Crime Book, which I started about 5 years ago, and I've just returned to it. And I used to choose all the books for that. We only do cozy crime, and that's it. And I used to choose all the books, and I once chose a book. I'm not even going to tell you which one it was. And honest to God, I read it and I dreaded going back, because I knew everyone in the book club would say, what the heck was this? And I mean, I don't know if you've read it. If I tell you the bit about it, it was just it wasn't really a murder at the end of the book. It was like some really stupid accident. But you had to read the whole book to get to the bit. But because I was leading the book club at the time, I thought, I've got to carry on reading this. As soon as I walked through that door, they all launched at me and said, what was this? What on earth did you? And I said, yeah, I'm really sorry. So I think I agree with your book club. I've just been saying to you, we've got our meeting on Monday. I've not started it at all. I've got to rush through it this weekend, because I hate going to a book club meeting and you have not read it, because then you feel, it's almost like you want to make an excuse for not going. I'd rather not go.
It almost seems if I'm the only one that thinks, God, I hated that.
But
everybody else comes along and says, well, I like this character.
I know. I think as well, why I set up the Cozy Crime book club about 5 years ago, Maria, was because if we just focused on cozy crime, you want to get people coming to the group who like cozy crime. I once went to a book club and it was so varied, and we were given there was some historical romance. I'm not really into romance at all. It's not just something I read, but we were having to read books that we didn't enjoy, which is why I set up a cozy crime book club, because I enjoyed every cozy crime book I enjoyed apart from that one. And So I knew it attracted people who like cosy crime. So you're more likely to get it right when you're sticking to a particular genre. But if it's a general book club, I totally get you. It's better not to go to the meeting, I think, than admit you've not read it.
Social aspect, you know,
Yeah.
the glass of wine and the
Oh, I've got an idea.
A glass of wine.
I've got an idea. If you go online, you can see synopsis. So if you read just a synopsis, you can just pretend that you've read it.
Sometimes the critic's synopses are not the same as the person sitting in bed thinking, I've read 7 pages of this now, I've got a clue what's going on.
Yeah. Or change book club. Or come to ours.
This is a glass of wine, you could read the yellow pages. Toni, how do you feel about book clubs and being made to read a book as opposed to picking one of your own choice?
Don't go to one.
You don't?
No. So I've never been to one, so I'm not in a position to comment really.
No.
Sorry.
Neither do I, but I get your point because I remember when I did English literature O-level. Yes, I'm old enough to have done O-levels. And we were doing Wuthering Heights, and oh God, what tedious grind is this? And the teacher would ask, why were Cathy Earnshaw's curtains blue? And I don't know. Maybe it's all they had in the shop. Yeah, and it was only about 3 decades later that I actually picked up Wuthering Heights. You know what? Actually, this isn't half bad. The difference was I wasn't having to work out why Cathy Earnshaw's curtains were blue. So yeah, there is some. What I would say is that not liking something is also a learning experience as well. And my father always used to say, "To be a boring world if we all like the same thing." So I think if it was me, I'd like to have the courage to say, well, this particular one wasn't for me, and the reasons were this, and this. And sort of something that you've learned from it as to what you like and don't like about certain ways that authors approach things. And I don't think it's embarrassing to not like something. I don't like Justin Bieber, but that's okay. Other people might love it and hate Kate Bush. We're all different.
So if we could give our guests here a round of applause.